fear, I really want you to think about this. Has fear ever stopped you from taking action? Think about it. Have you ever avoided doing something because you were afraid about what other people thought of you? Have you ever faced the fear of failure or the fear of rejection? Man, I sure have. Back when I was trying to get my first book published, I went through years of rejections. And it started with literary agents. I would send my book proposal to an agent, get rejected. Send my proposal, get rejected. Send my proposal, get rejected. It went on for so long. And, I really don't mind because I love rejection, said no one ever. Rejection hurts. And every time I would get rejected by these literary agents, even though logically I knew they weren't rejecting me as a person, it sure felt pretty personal. They were rejecting the book proposal, not me, but I felt it was really a me rejection. So, what do you do? Well, first of all, realize that rejection is one of those uncontrollables in life. We can't control other people. We can't force other people to want what it is that we have to offer. But what we can control is our ability to act and move forward. Act and move forward. So when you're feeling stuck or worried and you're about to take action, or if you're brainstorming because you're not sure what actions to take, sit down and ask yourself, what could I do? What could I read? Who could I ask? What could I do? Who could I read? Who could I ask? So when trying to get my book published, I thought, okay, what could I read? And so I read this book called Write the Perfect Book Proposal 10 That Sold and Why. And so I followed all of the advice in that book and I crafted a perfect book proposal. And then I thought, okay, so now what do I need to do? I need to find the literary agent that I want to take this perfect book proposal. Okay, well, whose books are doing pretty good? Dr. Phil's selling millions of books. Yeah, that's what I want. I want Dr. Phil's literary agent to represent me. So I go to the bookstore, grab one of Dr. Phil's books off the shelf. I'm flipping through. Yep. In the acknowledgement section, he thanked his literary agency in Texas. I am going after you. And so I thought, next, I've got to figure out, well, how do I stand out from all of the other potential authors that are thinking that exact same thing? And probably in your business, you've thought about this too. How can I differentiate myself? How can I be unique and stand out from all of the other agents in my community? So I knew I needed to do something different. Then I got it. What could I do? Well, I went home and on my computer, I made a mock cover of the book. So I designed this cover to look like it would be a real book. I printed it out and wrapped it around another book that I thought would probably be the same size my book would be once I'd finished writing it. And then I took that book wrapped in the cover that I had made to Chapters Bookstore and I put it on a top shelf underneath, directly underneath a self help sign. And I took a panoramic picture. And then I had that picture developed and I put it in a black frame. And then I wrapped it in gold Christmas paper because it was just before Christmas. And I attached a handwritten note. Never underestimate the power of a handwritten note. And my note said, you won't recognize the title of the book in this picture. Well, that's because it hasn't been published yet, but you don't want to be the agent kicking yourself, not getting the commission when it's on the bestsellers list. And then I sent the wrapped picture and that note to the agency in Texas. Now, about a month later, I was actually on vacation with my family in Disney World in Orlando. And I had my husband there and my two daughters. And we'd only been into Disney World, into the theme park for maybe 45 minutes. And I had a phone call from this particular agency. And I answered the call. And the agent on the other phone said, who are you? What is this book about? We talked for around an hour. And he said he would represent me. And at the end of the call, he said, oh, by the way, when this package came in, I thought it was a Christmas present. I said, it was. Merry Christmas. I'm telling you, we hang up the phone. I look up. I'm literally standing in front of Cinderella's castle and I am just dancing all around Disneyland. You remember your first sale? Think back to that first sale you had. Did you do a little happy dance? You felt so exhilarated. I thought, I finally made it. And I felt amazing. And I went home and told everybody, I have Dr. Phil's literary agency. I was pretty pumped. And then a few months later, I got a letter from the agency. And my agent said, hey, I tried 9 publishers and your book proposal was rejected by all 9. So let me know what your next idea is. Oh man, rejected again. I really thought I had made it that time. It felt awful, just that sinking, sad feeling. I felt like I had failed. And I thought, I've got to fire Dr. Phil's literary agency because he's not finding a publisher for this book anymore. But you know what? I didn't. I didn't fire him. I held on. And I held on because, like I said, I'd already told so many people I didn't have the heart to say, you know what? Actually, I failed. So I kept holding on. Here's something to think about. You know, as entrepreneurs, we often do our very best to stand out from the competition. But more often than not, the competition is not the guy down the street, not the business down the street. It's the person staring back at you in the mirror. Sometimes the things that stop us in our tracks are our own ego, our self doubt, our fears. Again, fears about what other people think. Have you ever worried that maybe you're not good enough? Maybe you're not going to succeed? And sometimes these fears can keep us stuck. And that's what was happening. My own self doubt, my own fear was keeping me stuck. Then one day I go to the movies. We went to see, what was that called? It was called Runaway Jury. And in the middle of the movie, the main character is in the scene, walking across the scene with another character, and he turns to him and he says, "Call Mr. So and so and tell him his service is no longer required." Well, the name he had just used was the name of the literary agent that I had been holding on to at this point now for 11 months and 12 days. And I couldn't believe it. I'd never heard them use that name up until that point in the movie or after that point in the movie. And when they said, call Mr. So and so and tell him his services are no longer required, I turned to my husband and I said, did you just hear what they just said? And he said, yep. Well, I'm a firm believer in signs. And so the next day, so now it's 11 months and 13 days of holding on to something that was no longer serving me. I sent a letter to dismiss the contract that we had set up so that I could start moving forward. What have you been holding on to for too long that's no longer serving you, that maybe you've just been afraid to let go of? If we're afraid to let go, it keeps us stuck. When I finally got the courage to fire Dr. Phil's literary agency, it freed me to move forward. And so I did. I thought, you know what? I'm going to cut out the middleman. I am tired of getting rejected by literary agents. I am just going to go direct to publishers on my own. And I did. I would send the proposal to publishers, and again, more rejection. I thought, man, something has got to be wrong with this proposal. All right, let's go back to the drawing board. Act to control the controllable. What could I do? What could I read? Who could I ask? Nick Boothman. That's who I could ask. Now, some of you might know Nick Boothman. If you don't, let me tell you. Nick Boothman is tall. He's about 6'1". He's a slender, very distinguished British fellow. He kind of reminds me of a tall Hugh Grant, and he also has that very charming and posh accent. So, Nick is also a best selling author of several books, including one you might know called How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. So, I knew Nick. He agreed to meet with me for lunch. And I remember we were eating lunch in this little cafe. It was a really cool little spot. It was attached to a museum and brightly lit. And there was all of these beautiful, bold, abstract paintings on the wall. And we sit down and we're talking. And he says, I know what's wrong with your proposal. And I said, what is it? He said, "It's a crap title." Ugh. Oh my gosh. I pretended that that didn't bother me, but the thoughts that go on in your mind when somebody tells you something you're doing is crap. I thought, oh no, maybe the whole book is. And no, he had just said the title, Challenge Your Assumptions. And what happened was I had to inquire further. And I said to him, Nick, why is it a crap title? And he said, no one can say it. Oof, he was right. No one could say it. The original title of the book was called From Warrior to Warrior. And I used to do seminars on the topic From Warrior to Warrior. And introducers had a very hard time saying it. Sometimes they'd say From Warrior to Warrior. So I come speak, no change, not so good. Or they would say they'd get it backwards. They would say From Warrior to Warrior. So you come in strong and you end up feeling worried. Not what I'm intending. So it took me a little longer, maybe another more month of struggles, and then it hit me. I'm like, what? The whole book is based around the acronym CALM. So I changed the title to CALM. I fixed it on my proposal. And now I thought, okay, now I got this great proposal. I'm going to send it to one of the biggest publishers of self help books in all of North America, Hay House. I sent it off to Hay House. And about 4 weeks later, I get this email from Hay House. I wasn't really expecting a whole lot from the email because, let's face it, at this point, I'd been rejected and rejected and rejected and rejected. I open it up. It's from the president of Hay House. And he says, "Hi, Denise, I'm interested in your book. My assistant will be in touch with you in the next couple of days to set up a time for us to talk." The president of Hay House wants to talk to me about my book. I was so excited and I was incredibly nervous the day of this call. My heart was just pounding, pounding right out of my chest. It felt like this moment was make or break. I mean, this is what I wanted more than anything. We get on the call, he talks to me, and then at the end of our conversation, he said, "We would like to publish your book and offer you an advance of $20,000. When he offered me this advance, I just want you to think about how I might be feeling in this moment. When he offered me an advance of $20,000 after years of rejection, what do you think I said? You can just float that into the chat box. What do you think I said? I said, I need 38,000. He said, "You need 38,000?" He said, "Okay, I'll have to get back to you." What? What? We hung up. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why on earth did I say I need $38,000? And then I was cleaning out a little while later a closet in my home office, and I came across this box. It was about the size of a shoe box, but inside this box, I guess I would call it my dream box. I would put in all of my dreams and goals and things I wanted to achieve. And I was going through this box and I found a check that I'd written to myself in the amount of $38,000 for an advance on COM. So I'd forgotten about the box, long forgotten about it, but it had been a dream of mine all along. What's in your dream box that maybe you need to resurrect? Maybe you've forgotten about it and you need to be reminded that it's something that's important to you. So I had found that check, and later that day, so I'd found the check in that dream box about a year later, but later that day of the call with the president, he called me back and he said, "Okay, we'll offer you 38,000." I had changed the title and finally my dream had come true. So what does this mean for you in your business? You could be one small adjustment away from everything coming together. You could be one small adjustment away from the success you desire or from that dream coming true. You've got to act and move forward. Act in spite of the fears. Act in the face of rejection. Ask yourself, what could I do? You heard what I've done. Well, what could you do? Look back at the notes and all of the things you learned during this Master's Academy and make the decision to implement some of those top strategies that really inspired you this week. Also, what could I read? You heard that I read Write the Perfect Book Proposal. Well, what do you need to read or reread? Don't let anything stand between you and the book that could change your life. And I mean, heck, how much do book cost these days? A paperback is about 25 bucks. You could borrow that from your kids. Read the books. And then who could you ask? I asked Nick, but who's your Nick? Could it be one of the RRI coaches? Sometimes all you need is someone to help you see something that's been right in front of your face all along. They can help you to spot those blind spots, and that can really progress you in moving forward. Act and move forward. And speaking about moving forward, let's move forward to the third step of the calm process. It's the L, and it's about letting go of the uncontrollable. So we're going to